Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. After a tiny bit of a break, I saved myself the stream the day after the Brighton game for once because we all had a crazy few days. All of us did, whether it's Connor or it's Monster, who will be joining us soon. He's just running a tiny bit late, but he did one before that he might be, so, it's all good. But yeah, we had a crazy few days, but we're back on the grind because it's a huge few weeks coming up for Chelsea. To be honest, like I said in the title, the biggest 2 weeks of the season. To be honest, it's the biggest, however long our season ends up being, weeks for Chelsea, because it's just one huge game after the other, with the only exception really being Fulham and maybe the last match day if we've got to 4 secured by then. But honestly, it's a crazy few weeks coming up, and to discuss all of that, including especially the West Ham game against Chelsea, of course, tomorrow. Also the Jorginho comments on Frank Lampard, which I know, basically, what's the word? Making waves at the moment. To discuss all of that, as I said, Monster will join us later, but who is already here, another very special guest. Is it your second, third time? I can't remember. But anyways, Mr. ConnCFC has joined us again, which I'm very happy about. So, first of all, how are you? And secondly, how are you
feeling? Thanks for having me on again, Lawrence. Last time was fun. Pleasure being on. Like I said last time, always watched you for years, so it's always a pleasure for you to invite me on and talk some Chelsea.
Appreciate that a lot. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, if you're here right now, I do appreciate you. If you're coming here from Connor, put that in the comments because, show the man that he's the influence that he is, even though he probably doesn't like the word, as nobody does, but ladies and gentlemen, first of all, if you're new here, please be sure to subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. Whether you're watching this live right now or whether you're watching this at a later point when this live stream has turned into a video, we're getting ever so closer to 10,000 subscribers. We're only ever 600 or so away now. So get subscribed, Let's make that happen as soon as we possibly can. Smash the like button. YouTube loves likes on things because it just things up. People love this. So we need to show it to more people that have never heard of this. And that's how content creators grow. So do that. If you fancy using the super chat function, of course, do that. Support the channel. But of course, you will never have to pay to watch my content. And to be honest, let's just get straight into the content. I'm not sure because Monster's been busy. I'm not sure whether he'll be too clued up on the whole Jorginho stuff. So I thought, why don't we just start with that before we get into all of the West Ham stuff? So if people haven't heard, let me actually just get it up quickly and read the comments out as they were at least tweeted by Absolute Chelsea. I didn't quite read the whole thing of ESPN, but basically what Jorginho said is, look, I'll be really sincere here on Lampard. I believe, given he was a legend at the club, he skipped some steps necessary for learning before making a move to a big club. Frank Lampard came to a club where he's a legend without having experience at other clubs. I think he came too soon, skipped a few steps ahead, and wasn't ready for a job at this level, to be honest. There's a lot of ways to look at this. My personal initial reaction was, that wasn't very smart of you to say, mate. That wasn't very smart of you to say. While he's spot on, let me clarify that. Of course he's right. Most Chelsea fans, I would say 99% of Chelsea fans would probably agree with that. Frank Lampard himself would 100% agree with that. And, myself and probably Con as well would agree with that. But I just don't think it was a smart thing to say, I just don't think it was a smart thing to say. Do I have a go at him for saying it? No. I'm just worried that other people will, and I don't want that, if that makes sense.
I agree. I don't think the timing was great with that, to be honest. I don't understand why it's been said now. But how can anyone be annoyed at it? Because we've all said it, And who's it worse coming from? Jorginho, who's been at Chelsea for 2 or 3 years, or us fans who support Chelsea our whole life, So how can we have a go at someone for saying the same things we did? And we're meant to love the club and et cetera, et cetera. So we can't get mad at it. You can be, you can question the timing 100%, but it makes you think, Lawrence, do you think anyone would really care if Mount said it or if Reece James said that? But because it's Jorginho, I feel like it's going to be looked into 100%. Way more than it should be, which is sad.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely, and that's why also I think it's not smart because of who he is. He struggled a lot with the fans at the very start, that he kind of got them back on track at the start of last season, you could say. Then it was kind of back in the mud at the start of this season, and then he's kind of winning the back now. Especially, was winning the back, then West Brom happened, and everyone was on his back again, and now he was winning them onto his side again. Obviously, he gave that great interview with the Daily Mail explaining how he grew up, how he became a footballer, that situation at kind of some sort of football academy in Brazil where they had, barely enough food, no hot showers in the winter and stuff, like crazy stuff. And all of, I felt like most people felt like, I don't know, got to like him more because they felt his more human side of the thing. And when you're a player that has received a lot of criticism and hate, and even though he says he deals with it, even though he obviously doesn't like it, as nobody does, and I 100% appreciate the honesty. And if it's not Jorginho, I 100% agree. If it's Mount, although people will be very surprised if Mount said that, because Mount is maybe a bit too young to make a statement like that at the same time, in all honesty. But hey, I just think don't risk it. Like, don't risk the fact that you're winning fans back now. Like, I hope it doesn't. I hope no one like loses their mind over it. I really hope they don't. I just worry they do, especially with now. Obviously, I'm not sure if this is 100% confirmed, but obviously there is the rumor report. You can tell me in a minute whether it's confirmed, of fans, at least some fans, coming back to games now at the end of May for the last 2 weeks of the season, maybe even against Madrid. Who knows? That's not confirmed yet, as far as I'm aware. Do we really want a divide between the fans? No, but I also understand that, you know, a player like Jorginho, who's been booed by Chelsea fans, who's been, you know, scrutinized, insulted, abused by Chelsea fans, does he really care, you know, what the Yardas think? Probably not. So I get it as well.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's sad because, like you mentioned there, he got booed by the fans. And if I remember rightly, because I was there a few times, he got booed because the fans didn't like the manager at the time. Yeah. And they saw him as savage boy.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I think is sad. So why does he always have to tread on eggshells around Chelsea fans? We should back the players, right? Even if we don't rate them. Like, through the years, Bakayoko, Morata, don't get me wrong, we should have done better with them. Like, we shouldn't have been so harsh in their first seasons. I regret that now. And if you look at Werner, you'd see the improvement from like the Morata times. But I think it's sad that even someone who I despise in Marcos Alonso, when he plays for Chelsea, I want him to do well. And I don't want him to have a bad performance to boost my ego, you know? So I just hate players having to tread on the eggshells because they feel like they might turn the fans against them. Like, just back the players, man. It's not that hard. Like, if they're not good enough, at some point, hopefully they'll be gone. But while they're here, give them your support, because if we ain't going to back them, who is, you know?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more with this. One thing I will say on this, I've seen a lot of people, especially that are really siding with Jorginho here, saying, well, Frank did the same thing with Villas-Boas. Now, there's two differences here. First of all, Jorginho is not Frank Lampard as a player. You earn the kind of right to speak up like that, and having been here for, at the time, 10 plus years, having won the Champions League, not when Villas-Boas was sacked, but when he actually made the comments, that was after winning the Champions League, winning multiple Premier League titles, blah, blah, blah. That puts you in a different step to where Jorginho is right now. Plus, again, Frank said this 2 years after Villas-Boas got sacked, not 3 months after, while you're in the very same season. That is a little bit different. But again, as just what's the best word to use, as a call and a plea to everyone watching right now, if you are kind of hating on Jorginho for this, saying, how dare you say this? How dare you speak about Frank Lampard like this? Calm down. In yourself, you know he was right. Maybe you think he shouldn't have said it. Fair enough. But that doesn't mean you need to hate him now. What we need right now, Chelsea are entering the most crucial stage of the season. We're in a Champions League semi-final from next Tuesday onwards. We're in a huge top four race with a huge game tomorrow. We're in an FA Cup final. We have huge games coming up right now. We do not need a divide between the fans and possibly causing divide between the players. We do not need that. Just support him, support everyone, and we're going to be better off for that. That's all I really have to say. If you have anything more to add to it, Colin.
Yeah, I just want to add a few more points. This kind of reminds me of, you know, the Rob Green and Sarri, where Rob Green yeah, and I didn't remember seeing like the uproar I saw now about that, and also Gary Cahill passing stuff along to Matt Law. That I didn't see a massive uproar like I'm seeing now. Don't get me wrong, people still questioned it, but the amount of people was different, you know. And I think Jorginho's done more for the club, not than Gary Cahill, that'd be stupid, but he's done more than Rob Green.
Well,
so I think people, one thing I can't stand, Laurenz, I'll be honest, is when people pick and choose what to criticise and who to criticise, you know, just keep it consistent, keep the energy consistent. If you're going to criticise someone for this, for like X, you criticise the other player for Y, you know. You just got to keep it consistent. You can't keep picking and choosing.
I would agree with that. It's, to some extent, while I agree with you that we shouldn't do it, to some extent, I also understand that's just how humans are. We like some people more than others. So we will be harsh on some people than we will be on others. That's sadly just how we work. But obviously, in an ideal world, it would be like you touched on. But to be honest, I don't even want to, you know, waste too much time. And a comment like this, David, it absolutely doesn't. It absolutely does not. Like, Jorginho is one of the most respectful players that we'll have in the squad. Frank Lampard made him the vice captain. Jorginho was the last one to actually do anything about it. Even if Jorginho in himself thought, he might be in over his head a little bit here. He didn't defy any instructions. If anyone defied instructions, it's players that played next to Jorginho, usually exposing Jorginho more than they should have done. If we're going to talk about it that way. So, David, I could not disagree more. But after that, I suppose let's just get into talking about West Ham against Chelsea. Like I talked about already, huge game, absolutely huge game. Chelsea in 4th, West Ham in 5th, only, differentiated by goal difference in Chelsea's favour, as far as I'm aware. Pretty sure we're on the same point. So, huge game tomorrow. How on earth West Ham are here with, 6-7 games to play? I have no idea. Fair play to them. Like, a lot of people were expecting them to get relegated, or were at least them to be in a relegation fight. I mean, that's what they were last season. And now they're literally fighting for top 4. And fair play to them. Fair play to David Moyes. Like, obviously, when he was at United, it was funny how awful he was and they were. Obviously, in hindsight, they were much worse a few times since then. But, I didn't like him at the time. But to be honest, I'm very happy for the man that he's so strongly getting his career back on track at the moment. Honestly, very happy for him. But let's just not do that tomorrow. And the same goes for Jesse Lingard. Obviously, he's had his struggles, in his personal life, in his professional life at Manchester United, and managed to really get his career back on track with West Ham, most likely even going to the Euros with England, which is a huge compared to where he was in January before this loan move started, right? But again, David, Jesse, let's not do any of that getting careers back on track tomorrow. Let's just be really bad while we're really good and batter you. That would be, my ideal scenario for this. But before we get into more details, how do we line up, blah, 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 team news, how do you feel ahead of tomorrow's game?
I love how you ended that there with the West Ham thing. But I don't know, I might be like a rare occurrence here, but I love playing West Ham because obviously where I'm from South East London, majority of my friends support West Ham. Obviously, I was brought up in the Chelsea family, so I didn't have a choice in the matter. But I always said if I didn't support Chelsea, it'd probably be West Ham, which is where I'm from. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's a massive rivalry. And I never go into that thinking we're gonna lose. I can't go in with that mentality, because you got to keep the banter up. You got to have them lad points. So I always love playing West Ham. It's one of my favourite games of the season to do, and it'd make it so much better for me if Chelsea can beat them tomorrow, and then. It's just the banter would be unreal to say that we stopped you getting Europe. It's just, for me, I love that.
Oh, it would be sick. It would be sick. Problem is, and I've thrown that stat at you guys watching and at UConn. I'm sure you've seen it before, but Chelsea have only won once at London Stadium since 2015, which is not great because we really need a win tomorrow. Like, that is the definition of a must-win game tomorrow, because compared to most of the other of our top 4 race rivals, we've got probably the toughest run, so we cannot afford to even get a draw tomorrow. We need to win. I know we've got Fulham after that, but that's only where you'd say fairly comfortable win, at least expecting it to be a fairly comfortable win, right? And even then, we're close rivals, which makes playing Fulham more difficult than, say, for Man United playing Fulham, right? But we've got Man City after that. We've got Leicester in the league. We've got Leicester in the FA Cup. Because of the FA Cup, we have an extra midweek game compared to all the other teams, aside from Leicester, obviously. We've got Aston Villa at the end. We've got Arsenal, who, of course, are in the mud. But against us, they always turn up. So we have a tough run of fixtures until the end of the season. So we need to get that double. Like, it is undebatable. It is not debatable. We need to get this double. There's no two ways about it. And the problem, I'm not sure problem, but the situation that we're in is that we have a huge game tomorrow, and then we have a Champions League bloody semi-final on Wednesday. Now, if people remember back to the last time Chelsea played the Champions League semi-final, obviously against Atletico Madrid under Jose Mourinho, well, what happened there the game before? Was it between the two legs? I don't remember. We played Liverpool away at Anfield with bloody Thomas Cullis starting. I think his first and only ever start for Chelsea Football Club. Absolutely dominated Liverpool and winning 2-0 at Anfield, which was brilliant. But what I'm kind of getting at with that is we played a complete second-string team. We're not going to play a second-string team tomorrow, are we, Con?
No, we can't. We can't take the risk. But then your memory's very good, by the way. Thomas Callis starting against Liverpool all them years back. I didn't even remember that, so fair play to you for that. But yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? It makes you think why the FA can't do a little bit more. Like West Ham and then Madrid is. It's horrible, man. It's horrible. And when you've got a team directly below you on the same points fighting for that top 4 position, you can't. You just can't put a second string team out. But then again, you got Madrid next, so I would hate to be Tuchel now. Honestly, I really would, but I have faith that he can get us both wins, you know.
Probably. I mean, I say probably in terms of what Thomas Tuchel has done so far. Obviously, aside from the second leg against Porto, but it wasn't necessary because we won the first leg 2-0. And maybe Man United because it was a 0-0 draw. But every other game that was a big game, we won. We've struggled against the lesser teams. To be honest, that's been a reoccurring scenario and issue at Chelsea Football Club for many, many years, that if we drop points, it's usually against the small teams. Obviously, against Frank earlier in the season, we were struggling against the bigger teams more. But in general, even last season, we were dropping points always against the small teams. Under Tuchel, we dropped points against Wolves, against Southampton, against Leeds, against West Brom, right? And obviously against Brighton in midweek. That's where we struggle. When it's a big game, and as much as West Ham in terms of name isn't a big game, in terms of league position, it's a huge game. That's usually when we turn up. So it's not exactly like I'm worried or scared or, I am confident, but it's a tough one in terms of, picking the lineup, because we'll discuss it in a minute anyway, but it's a tough one in terms of do you make sure someone's fit for Madrid? Do you make sure someone's fit tomorrow? Can all of them play both games? If they can't, which do you prioritize? Blah, blah, blah. It's a tough situation to be in, isn't it?
No, it's extremely tough, especially when you've got players like Nagolo and Pulisic who struggle to play more than one game a week. And then when you've got Kovacic out, what are you meant to do in the middle of the park? We got Gilmore, Nagolo, we can play Mount there, but we saw against Brighton, it wasn't, the best scenario for us. So, limited options, two very important games. Yikes.
100%, yeah. I mean, I actually want to touch on this quickly in terms of the Brighton game, because obviously didn't do my day after stream. What I thought, people were very critical of Mason Mount, and I didn't think he had a great game either. But what I will say is, to play the left side of the pivot is made significantly more difficult when you have Alonso next to you. And that's not just slating Alonso now. That's just, we are tactically, factually different when we have Alonso than when we have Ben Chilwell. Because when we have Alonso, we basically just have a left winger. Alonso doesn't really play like a left wing back. When Alonso plays, Rudiger needs to kind of play like a left back. Well, when Ben Chilwell plays, he's an actual left wing back, and he's a passing option consistently. The only thing you have with Alonso is you pass the ball to him, and he passes it back to you because he's too slow to make runs in behind. He's awful at crossing, and he's got awful passing, right? So what that means is the only real thing you have from him is a set-piece threat from taking free kicks directly, and obviously getting into the box when you have crosses coming in from the opposite side. But in terms of build-up, it makes things more difficult. So I think Mount would have looked significantly better had he had Chilwell next to him, because it would have allowed Pulisic to stay a bit higher and therefore Mount not to drop so deep and constantly pass backwards, because he would have actually had a forward passing option. But the way it was, plus Brighton kind of man-marking our entire team, made everything a lot more difficult. But of course, like you said, the ideal still isn't Mason Mount starting in a double pivot. And I suppose that kind of brings us on to just talking about the team. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel, let's discuss the press conference quickly. Confirmed two major things, obviously, other than being asked a million questions about the Super League again. Mateo Kovacic is still out injured. What he said is he might be fit. Well, he said basically could be fit for Madrid, but we don't have for the first day against Madrid, but we basically don't have enough training to get him back into the rhythm. So he might be fit for Fulham, but we might just save him for Fulham and probably just play him against Madrid in the second leg. We'll see, right? But he's not fit tomorrow, probably not going to feature against Madrid either. So let's see how that goes after that. And what else did he say? That Edouard Mendy will be back and go tomorrow. Also confirmed that, they always planned after City that Kepa would also play the next Prem game, a bit like it was after playing against Barnsley. He also got to play the next Premier League game against Newcastle. Aside from Mendy being after the Golden Glove, which I would like for him to get, and he basically missed 2 clean sheets for no apparent reason now. That's a bit disappointing. But other than that, I don't mind it. I like Kepa as a guy. Do I rate him as the best goalkeeper in the world? No. But I like him. I'm happy for him that he's, not getting scrutinized every week now, because whenever he's playing, we're mostly keeping clean sheets. Not always because he's that great, but because, structure is better now. But still, it makes him look better too. So I'm happy for him. But Edouard Mendy is back and goal. So if we look at the lineup, and you can comment on, the press conference in a second, Con, if you have anything to say. If we get to the lineup that we would like to see, / we are kind of expecting Thomas Tuchel to turn up with, Edouard Mendy will be in goal, and the lineup will be a 3-4-2-1. But aside from that, there's a lot of things open to discussion, isn't there?
No, yeah, there is. Like, well, who would the centre backs be? Because we didn't see Asby last game. The midfield will Mount play there again. Because your point about Alonso as well is spot on. I don't think people realise the context of things sometimes. Like, just because Mount didn't look terrific there, it's not fully on him. I'd hate to have to play there with Alonso next to me, you know? And it's the same person who's playing further forward on that same side, playing with Alonso. It's just not good, man. It's just not good. But, yeah, we might even see Tammy tomorrow. You never know.
I doubt that one, but you never know. I don't know about that one. It's an interesting one. Let's talk through it. Let's talk about the defense first, shall we say? Now, you said Aspi didn't play the last game. I think he just got a rest because he needed one. He played every other game under Thomas Tuchel. Obviously, he didn't have the international break because he obviously isn't in the Spain squad. So he had a break that way, but still played every other game. And I'm pretty sure played the full 90 of pretty much every other game, right? So he needed a rest at some point. It was probably a good time to give it to him, I suppose. I think the only real question is who plays in the middle. Aspi will be right centre back. And will be today and against Madrid. Might get another rest against Fulham, we'll see, but definitely will be today and will be against Madrid in both legs. And Rodrigo will probably be the left centre-back in both of those games too. But what about a central centre-back? How do you think we should deal with that?
I'd go with Andreas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced.
Both games or just tomorrow?
Both games, yeah. I'm not convinced that Suma playing in the centre. I'm really not convinced. Silva. Oh, Thiago Silva. Oh. What's going on with his injury?
I think he's fine.
Okay?
Is
he fine?
Tuchel said he's fine. Tuchel said everyone but Kovacic is fit, yeah?
Oh, okay. That changes things then. Probably, yeah, Andreas versus West Ham and Silva versus Madrid for me.
I would agree with that. I think that makes the most sense. I think Champions League semi-finals, you can't have, and I love Andreas Christensen. Everyone knows it, AC Hive, AC Penitentiary, everything. But it is a known fact that he struggles with nerves. The man is sometimes before games sat there in the dressing room throwing up because of his nerves and shit, right? And I personally don't think it's a complete coincidence that he's been ill a couple of times. And I'm not saying he's not ill. Sorry, I should have done a quotation marks, but as in, I do believe that he's ill, but I think a lot of that has to do with psychology and nerves. So for the huge game against Real Madrid, I want Thiago Silva playing. I don't want a dodgy tummy Andreas Christensen or a fever or a headache Andreas Christensen. No. Just go with Thiago Silva. But in terms of actual current form and ability, well, I say that. Thiago was unbelievable against City until he came off. Was, in my opinion, alongside Jorginho, man of the match. But so it doesn't matter. But for Madrid, it's 100% Thiago Silva for me. And I think I agree with you. Tomorrow, Christensen makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, I think he does. Because like you said, Christensen's known for... I think, didn't Sarri say like he goes to the toilet as well? Not just throws up, but he goes to the toilet as well beforehand.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether he meant it that way or whether he, by going to the toilet, meant throwing up. I was unsure. Just comparing to the times when I was very nervous in my life, I was definitely closer to throwing up to just taking the dump personally, right? So that's why I read it that way, but maybe people have it different.
But yeah, Thiago Silva, for him, it's just another game, isn't it? That's how he sees it. It's just another game of football. So you want him against Madrid.
Oh, no, to be fair, how many Champions League semi-finals has Thiago Silva played?
Well, he played one last year, didn't he?
Yeah, but I think that might have been his first and only ever one, I think.
No, yeah, so you're right. Because
they never ever good enough. And that was PSG's first semi-final, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was their first semi-final, yeah. You're right.
So it must have been his first semi-final too. But still, obviously, he still has the experience, has the age, has the ability and quality, and also belief in his own ability and quality that it will phase him a lot less, let's be honest with ourselves. But yeah, that's the defence done, I suppose, or the centre-back three done, I suppose. And then I suppose we have to look at the wing-backs, where the interesting thing is just Reece James. Ben Chilwell comes back into the side. I'm very confident of that. He will play 100% the next two, maybe against Fulham. Alonso will be back, we'll see. But what about Reece James? Because he's played a lot of games in a row now. He's played a lot of games in a row. What was the last game that Callum Hudson-Odoi started? Well, I suppose Palace, which isn't that long ago, fair enough. But still, do you think Reece is fit enough, and is it smart to just play him again and maybe against Fulham go with Callum there? I mean, you have to, but I hope he's fine.
It all depends on how you think West Ham are going to set up. If you think they're going to play a low block, 10 men behind the ball, try counter, then I have no problem with playing Odoi because I think he'd be more suited.
To be honest, you make a good point.
I don't see West Ham pressing us too often. I see them trying it a little bit, but I see them playing quite problematic most of the game. So I wouldn't be against Cho starting against West Ham, to be honest. And Reece Madrid.
You know, now that I'm thinking about something, going back to Thomas Tuchel's press conference, and what he said is factually true. West Ham have two huge threats: counter-attack and set pieces. We know that Tuchel has said a number of times that for height reasons he started Alonso. Are we worried that Alonso plays because of that tomorrow?
I think he does. Yeah, no, you're right. Is Souček available?
Well, should he not be? Was he injured?
No, I was just curious. That's all.
I think so. I think Rice will not be fit, but as far as I'm aware, Souček should be. They have someone suspended, but I don't know who it is.
Yeah, I keep saying
Dawson is suspended. Dawson.
Dawson. Okay, that's another aerial threat. Then it'd probably be Alonso, to be honest, for the height, considering we'll probably start Chilwell against Madrid. So yeah,
just think about the last time we played West Ham away.
When there was counter-attacking.
Do not play Alonso, but play Reece, because Reece is a bigger help. I know he doesn't necessarily have the height, but he has the physicality to give someone a bit of a shove to make sure they don't get on their head on something, while Callum probably doesn't provide that. So even if they sit back in a low block, if we can't do Alonso, we need to have Reece in there. I don't think we can do Chile and Callum. Like, if we're not thinking about what will Tuchel do, what would I do, what would you do, I would go Chile and Reece for those reasons.
Chile and Reece, yeah, no. In an ideal world, I probably would as well. But when Yarmolenko was sprinting down the wing and Alonso was just walking back here, that gives me nightmares. I can't lie.
Exactly. I hope someone shows that to Tuchel before you play.
Oh God, no, that scares me. But
honestly, it does scare me as well. It's a real shambles.
I think Ben Chilwell was fit enough to play 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, he played loads of games in a row before that. So
yeah.
So he seemed to be the clear number one. But we haven't really played a team that are so clearly so strong at set pieces.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, and that's one thing. If Reece starts, Reece loves to give away stupid fouls. Please don't do that tomorrow, Reece. If you're starting, please do not.
Do you reckon Zuma might start then if he's worried about the set pieces?
Ooh, good shout. Maybe Zuma central centre back for that reason.
Yeah. Especially if they're going to play, I don't know, quite defensive.
Maybe because he won't play Alonso, he might do that.
Yeah. Either one of them starts. Yeah, I think one of them starts 100%, surely.
Yeah. I mean, obviously last game we saw Christensen at right centre back, and it would be interesting to see with the rest of the team being more normal if that would harm us in the build-up, because I thought he didn't do as good a job as Aspie usually does there.
I agree.
So it would be interesting, because if we still keep Chile, if we have Kante in the middle, presumably, right, and we don't have as bad of a day as we do on Tuesday, and Tuesday was totally understandable to be difficult for the team, hence why I wasn't upset at them or angry at them. I was like, hey, I get it, right, just sort it out for Saturday, basically. But maybe because of the set piece threat, it's a shout or an idea to play either Thiago and Christensen or Zuma and Christensen to make up for not playing Alonso, to put more height into there that you don't have if you play Aspie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. And to see Souček versus Zuma in an aerial battle will be interesting. I want to see who wins that.
First of all, that, and secondly, it's probably our best shout of beating him.
Yeah, I don't see anyone else.
If I think back to when Souček scored headers against us, or whenever I watched him play, he always turns up at the far post, doesn't he? He's never near post. He's always somehow far post, right? And would we really put Zuma at the far post? I don't think we would anyway, personally.
So it sounds like you're sort of talking into Alonso territory here.
No, I'm just thinking. Regardless of whether Zuma starts, I don't think Zuma will be in the duel with Souček for set pieces.
Yeah.
Just for that reason, because I've not seen Tuchel put Zuma anywhere but the front post for defending set pieces. Because he's got the best deep and clear it out before he ever can get to a far post, possibly.
Have you noticed it, Lawrence, as well? Sometimes in set pieces, Aspie's defending one of the bigger guys. Like, I've noticed that in a few of our games where Aspie's on one of the bigger
Aspie and Reece always end up against huge guys. But I'm not sure, maybe that's just because we don't have enough huge guys.
Yeah.
Maybe it just ends up that way. But I still think it's mostly because we do half defending, of half aerially, half positionally, half man-on-man.
Yeah, half zone or half man. Yeah, so you got the big guys in the zones.
Exactly. You have Zuma
Players like
front post
Asbig,
just trying to clear it, as with the striker. Well, less so when it's Kai, but when it's Tammy and Drew, you have them front post try to clear it. You have Zuma just behind them, kind of in the middle to front post, try to clear it. And then you have whoever's left at whoever the big guy they put at the far post kind of thing. I agree with Melinda here. Aspie is definitely going to play. I agree. I'm just thinking maybe it would be smart not to, if that makes sense. But I think the Zuma one is a fair shout because of that. But then Zuma, for when we get here on the breaks by West Ham, is not who I want. Then I'd rather have Thiago Silva for reading the game or Christensen.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Because they're two biggest threats, and then you've got Zuma, who's great in the air, but on counters he's going to suffer. And then maybe AC and Thiago, who are not so great in the air, but on counters do a lot better. So which one are you more scared of, Lawrence? The set pieces or the counters?
I actually think more of the counters. Because I think counters are to some extent slightly inevitable, while set pieces you can avoid.
Plus we have Mendy.
Plus you have Mendy, true. But obviously Tuchel always had Mendy when he gave that reason for Alonso, I suppose. But I think just be smart, and then you might not give away the set pieces. I don't know. Impossible for me to predict in 11. If you ask me what I'd do, I'd go Rudiger, Christensen, Aspie, because Christensen's at least a bit taller than Thiago, so gives us the edge a little bit. But I'd still pick Reece and Chile. I personally still would. Let's see what it does. We have a new member on the channel. Big up yourself, Chinos. Appreciate that. CFC Alex, sorry. I know you don't like being called Chinos. But I appreciate you becoming a member, bro. I appreciate it. And anyone else that fancies that, there's a join button underneath if you're on desktop, or link down in the description if you're on your phone. But let's move on higher up the pitch a little bit, I suppose. Getting to the double pivot. I think Kante plays today and against Madrid, and then gets rested against Fulham again, and then plays Madrid against City again. I think that's how it will go.
I totally agree with that. How could he not?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. You cannot afford not playing. Like, especially with how what Tuchel again said today, that we need to be super strong in the counter press to stop any sort of counter attacks. Who do you want to stop those? Kante. And who do you want next to him to be positionally in the right spot to intercept any passes, intercept any runs? Jorginho. That's our double pivot. And I just hope somehow that Jorginho is capable of playing another 2 games. I have no idea what we're going to do against Fulham. Maybe mount and cover. Maybe if cover's fit, maybe, because that's so many games for Jorginho. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe just cover Kante against Madrid, and then that's kind of Jorginho's rest.
Maybe.
A tough one. But tomorrow it's 100% Jorginho Kante, right? Do we agree?
No, yeah, it has to be, surely.
It absolutely, yeah, it does. But then we get to the front three where it becomes very, very interesting again. Because what on earth do we do? We have so many options. We have so many options, but at the same time, no options. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but it kind of is like that for me. Obviously, none of them were great against Brighton, but I explained that already why I don't really hold that against them much, and why I'm not really too upset about that, shall we say. You know what? Before I say what I would do, why did you hit me? What would you like to see? I know you said what about Tammy, but would you actually want that? And if you would, let's be honest, probably not. Tuchel is probably not going to do that.
Yeah, with the Brighton thing, I'm totally in agreement with you there. Just want to put that out there quickly. I don't think really that's players' fault. But what would I see against West Ham? My problem is just always thinking who's going to score the goal on the night. And that's why I have trouble always picking the front three, because I don't know who's ever going to score, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Would you put Tammy in? It would help if we could, to keep Kai from Madrid, keep him fresh. But I think it would probably be a Kai, Pulley, and Mount front three. And it will be the same.
Say that again.
Pulley, Kai, and Mount.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think they play against Madrid as well.
Okay. For tomorrow, I agree. Again, Mount is obviously the one that's probably most capable of playing every game, but he at some point also needs a rest. And what if he needs to play midfield against Fulham again? So can you play him in the front three in all of the other games? I don't know, right? But just for tomorrow, I agree. I think that's probably our best way to go about it. But for Madrid, and obviously we'll discuss that on Monday in another stream, but for Madrid, I think Werner starts up top. A bit like against Liverpool, just give us that pace and try to hit them on the break, because that's probably how Madrid are most vulnerable.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The question is, who do we play around that? But that's maybe a discussion for a different day. It's a tough one. But the problem is, again, Kai, I really do believe in Kai as this kind of false 9/striker, but he really needs to start aiming a bit better. Because I know we were poor against Brighton, but he has to score that. He just has to score that. And then we probably, because of the state we're in, probably just sit back, we park the bus, we don't make the stupid mistakes that we make, and Brighton never get a single real chance on goal. And we probably take a whole 1-0 calm. It's frustrating. And he had a really good game against Palace, scored one, good goal, assisted one, good assist, but he should have scored probably 4, realistically. He had 4 good chances. Let's say 3 of them were kind of where you're like, yeah, you should really score that. Come on, Kai. Get your shooting boots on. Someone. I don't know if you left him in Leverkusen or something. Someone call up, I don't know, UPS and send them over.
Oh, bro, that's the problem with even with Werner at times, or Tammy or Giroud, whoever it is, they can play well, but they just don't score the goal. It's like, I don't know what we need to do to get them to score. Maybe do we need to create more? Probably, but they have chances and they still miss. That's the issue. We're not clinical. It's painful. It really is painful.
Yeah, it is painful, isn't it? Like, and I don't really know how to fix that problem. Like, that's been a problem that we've had all season. I know more clear-cut chances, more easier chances. That's been a problem for us. Well, I wouldn't say maybe all season, but especially since December 5th, shall we say, whether then it was Frank or Tuchel. But then there was a lot of games where we just missed sitters, and not even so much on Tuchel anymore, Werner. Not because he takes them, but because he doesn't end up with chances usually. But it's like we have too many half chances, too many chances where I'm like, I'm not even expecting you to score this. With a couple of exceptions, right? We had, for example, the Porto game. We had the Porto game. Was it the Porto game? Yeah, we had the Porto game where we didn't end up with the chance because Kante, for some stupid reason, just did pass it to Mount, who had literally an open goal. And that didn't end up a chance because of the pass before, right? We had, the Everton game where I know won comfortably, but should have scored probably 5 more, realistically, with how many bloody chances we had. And then we had Palace where we won 4-1, but probably should have scored 7.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then even against Brighton, Giroud had those chances in the second half, and no blame to him at all. Those are half chances where you need to be having a really good day as a striker to take those, and it's impossible to kind of expect that from him, shall we say. But I honestly don't know how to fix it. Like, obviously, part of it is getting the wing-backs more involved, trying to break teams down more. Players becoming more confident to take one-on-ones on. Where kind of Pulisic half the time is the only one that actually tries. At times Mount, but Callum, we don't see enough. How do you see us fixing that problem? Not even just for tomorrow, but for next season, and don't just say sign Haaland.
To be honest, I really don't know, because I believe in Kai. I think he can be Chelsea's 9. But how do you get him scoring? Like, how do you get him to score the chances he gets? Because, they don't get loads of chances, our strikers, but they've missed some horrible ones, man. Like, even you said, Kai against Brighton, I don't think people realise how big of a chance that was, that he missed.
Did you see, actually, was it a goalie save, or did the defender block it? Did you see that? Because I wasn't sure.
I think it was a goalie save.
Okay.
Kai hit it right at him. And that's the thing with Kai as well. You notice he always hits it at the keeper. Have you noticed? Like, he doesn't really play. He hits it at the keeper,
and I feel like he pulls the trigger way too soon. He seems a bit flustered. And I said this in the player ratings after the Brighton game, that I feel like Kai knows he's the only one that's actually going to score. So I think that puts a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, I agree.
With an exception of the odd game where you have Pulisic turning up, but then the better the opposition defends, the more difficult it makes the left winger to really be a consistent goal threat. He can still turn up with a goal or two, right? But it's with the system we play, it makes it a bit more difficult, especially if Alonso's the player behind him, because that forces Pulisic to do more of winger work, shall we say. But I think that's a problem for Kai. And I mean, a lot of it is confidence, right? A lot of it is confidence. So I don't have a serious problem with it, but we need to fix it somehow. We absolutely do need to fix it somehow. But I suppose those are our teams. If we quickly just go back, I know we touched on it here and there, but if we quickly just set a team, that's what we think Tuchel will pick. Just running through it, do you think he will pick the same front three that we would go with?
I could see him putting Siak in, to be honest.
Okay. Instead of Mount.
Ahead of probably Pulley, if anyone.
Don't you think he would then just start Werner?
He could do, yeah, but he
Just
can't.
judging by what he usually does, I suppose.
Yeah,
Not.
I don't know. Lately, he's had a thing for Hakeem, hasn't he? Starting him, benching Werner.
True.
You don't know with Tuchel. This guy, he could just bring out Tammy Abraham, like some Cho, Tammy, and don't know who else, like an Emerson front three. You know, you just don't know with this guy.
Hey, if Emerson starts front three, I know it's crazy, but I'd be a fan. Just like I get it. Hey, he's probably got the best finishing at the club, to be honest. So why not?
Yeah, one touch against Atletico goal. You'd love to see it.
First of all, that and he's the only one that shoots from distance. He's the only one that gets into positions. And I don't think I've ever seen Emerson miss a sitter. Obviously, he hasn't had that many. But whenever Emerson has a chance to score, the man scores. He does.
Yeah,
there's no two questions about it.
Have you noticed that as well with us? Like, besides our centre backs, no one has like a shot from outside the box, like ever.
Yeah, except from him every now and again. Yeah,
Yeah.
when he does play, but obviously he never does. Maybe Mount very rarely, but even he doesn't do it often enough. And Mount would do it more if he played on the left more.
Yeah.
And obviously he does it significantly less when he plays on the right because obviously strong foot, right? But still, I reckon he'll start those three that we said. I reckon it probably makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Midfield 2, I think he'll start the same as well. Wing backs, I'm not sure. Do you think he'll go with Alonso?
At first, I thought he might have started with Chile, to be honest. But after we've been talking,
sorry, I just have to bring it up. Gino's Gino's and I have had very interesting debates about Marcos Alonso. He thinks he's a great crosser off the ball, and he basically thinks he should just play left winger every game. I'm like, no, Alex. I appreciate you, but just no. The guy can't control it. Well, no, actually, he can control the ball, but he can't do anything with it once he controls it. He can't run. He can't dribble. He can shoot, sure, but every now and again, so and so, and he doesn't have a right foot. He doesn't even own one. I don't know where. When he was born, they just forgot that one. It just didn't happen. It's a bit like Iron Robin, but just Iron Robin was so good otherwise that it didn't matter. It's a shambles. No, I disagree with you, Alex. You're here. Monster says he's here, and he is here, but he hasn't turned the camera on, so I wasn't sure whether he wants to be invited already. But here he is, Monster. Here he is. Are you going to turn your camera on, or are you planning to leave it on?
Yeah, I'm not exactly at home right now. I'm still. I had to, in order to get here, I had to just go somewhere and chill so I can do this vid.
You're a crazy person. I appreciate it a lot. Bro. I'll get back to you, Connor, quickly in a minute. We'll just let kind of Monster run through the team he'd like to see. Let's just say that way, because. And did you see the stuff that's gone on with Jorginho? I'll get your thoughts on that later as well. Did you see it, Monster?
No, I haven't seen it. Is there something going on with Jorginho?
Yeah, he's just made some comments about Frank Lampard. I'll fill you in a minute. Let's just talk about the team first. How would you like to see us line up? We've kind of spoken through our teams already, so just hit us how you would like to see us line up, and then if we have any disagreements, we can discuss.
I would start with Mendy in goal. I would start with Aspi, Rudiger, and Christensen. I will start with Chilwell at left wing back. Right wing back should be Reece. Actually, I will go Callum Hudson-Odoi at right wing back in this one. Kante and Jorginho, and then I'll probably go with Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, and Christian Pulisic.
We actually agree. I think Con might agree with the Odoi one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the only difference is that I would probably stick with Reece. Where we've had our debates, even though we ended up with that anyway, is Tuchel emphasised that, and obviously we know it. One of West Ham's biggest strengths is their set-piece strength. And that made us think, we've heard it multiple times in the past with Tuchel. He says, set-piece strength, extra height, that's why he plays Alonso. Do you think that's a real threat, that for that reason he plays Alonso?
I think with the way we've played, we've not. It doesn't matter who's playing because Chilwell's quite good in the air. I think people are. I don't exactly believe Tuchel when he says he plays Alonso over Chilwell because of the aerial presence. I think Chilwell's quite good in the air anyway, so I don't know what difference Alonso makes to Chilwell aerially. I think they're both just as good as each other aerially.
That is fair enough. We then also discussed, because of the aerial threat, obviously we know how strong Souček is from it, especially. I mean, I know they're missing Dawson, so I suppose they're missing one of the guys that usually is a big threat from set pieces. But with that said, does that basically hint maybe we should start Zuma just for being a bit better for set pieces? Or maybe not start Aspie and play Christensen right centre back again or something?
No, if Aspie to me or if Silva's available, one of those two have to start because they also, it's not just that they're really good at what they do, they also bring some leadership in that back line, which we lack without the two of them. Zuma is a shout because obviously aerially his presence is definitely needed, but I just don't, I couldn't, personally, I think if you play Zuma, what's his name, Rudiger and Christensen, that's a recipe for disaster. There's absolutely no leadership in that back line. So it's either if you want to play Zuma, you've got to take out Christensen or Rudiger. Simple as that.
Realistically, probably Christensen. And then we said, yeah, that might be better for set pieces, but the other big threat of West Ham is counter-attacks, and then you draw the Christensen and Zuma. And that's where the conundrum starts, I suppose. That's what the conundrum. Exactly that. But how are you feeling ahead of the game anyway? Because obviously Chelsea have only won once since 2015 at London Stadium. Not exactly our best record there, but it's a huge game. You know, I mean, other than maybe Fulham, every game is a huge game until the end of the season from now because we just have tough opponents. Plus Cup finals and Champions League semi-finals, hopefully Champions League finals, all sorts of madness. But how are you feeling ahead of tomorrow? Confident or because of our record they're a bit worried?
I am worried, but it's a game that they have to win because at the end of the day, listen, it's not about just worrying about West Ham now. You have to worry about Liverpool as well because Liverpool are, 2 points behind us now? So they basically caught us. So now we've got to worry about two teams. Obviously, we're playing one of them on Saturday. We can't even afford to draw at this point. We have to win. You know, we can't afford to drop points anymore. These lot need to take it serious. That game against Brighton was shocking. It was a shambles. It was a horrible performance. Some say it was maybe because of the ESL, but they cannot do that again. They can't. No. Do you get what I mean? We can't pull out that kind of performance again, especially not against West Ham. I watched them against Newcastle and listen, from 2-0 down, they came back to 2-2 with 10 men. You know, luckily Newcastle did get away with it, but you know, we can't be playing like, we can't be complacent. We have to go out and win. Simple as that.
We have to, we absolutely have to. We myself and Con touched on this earlier already. There's no two ways. We have to get this win for those reasons you said. Liverpool is there. You still have a theoretical threat of Spurs. I suppose they're not far behind. They're obviously with that late winner against Southampton the other day. So it's not easy. And we have probably the toughest run of all of the teams in the top five, in the top four race, right? I mean, we've got West Ham now, yeah, sure, then Fulham, but then we've got City, then we've got Arsenal, then I don't know when even that Leicester game, because we were meant to play Leicester in the league the same weekend. We're now going to play them in the FA Cup final, so I don't know whether they've set it already when it's going to take place instead. But
exactly,
we have that game happening, and then obviously Villa on the last day. Hopefully, crossing my fingers that we have top four done by then. That would be ideal. So then Villa isn't a huge game anymore, but probably unlikely. So we have just one big game after the other. But Con, do you echo what Monster said so far? And if you want to go back to what we just talked about in terms of the lineup, in terms of what you think from Thomas Tuchel, please continue that.
No, I think he's spot on there. Like the Brighton, I think we give him a pass because of the situation at the time. But West Ham, a win and a loss at this point is massive, you know. It's so big, especially losing to West Ham. That would be horrible. Even the draw, like Monster said, where Liverpool, you don't put it past them to get back into top four. And I think a lot of us are putting money on Leicester bottling again. But who says they're going to bottle, you know? Like, we have to put it in our own hands. If we beat West Ham, it's in our hands. So, yeah, we need to step up and win that game because we're the better team. They've had a great season, but we're still the better team. And to humble them would be so nice. You have no much...
satisfying.
Oh, bro, honestly, I can't stand West Ham. I hate West Ham just as much as I hate Arsenal. So if we can beat them, I'll be so happy. But yeah, I agree with him with the Callum Hudson-Odoi thing, because I think they're going to set up very problematic, like I said, with that low block. So I think Cho has better delivery. I think it just suits him more, that right wing back. Sorry, don't know if you agree with me. Like defensively, he's not as sound as Reece, but going forward, I think he's definitely better. So
100%.
So I'd start him, and you'd want Reece for 100% against Madrid. You know, with rumours Hazard's coming back, which is a bit scary. But you know, Reece just needs to target that dodgy ankle of Eden's.
Oh, sorry, that's so hard.
I highly doubt he'll be 100%. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about him.
First of all, do you think he'll start? I think he might start the second leg, but even if he's fit, I don't think he'll start first leg.
I think it would be stupid of them to play him overall.
No, yeah, Vinicius has been good as well. I think a lot of Chelsea fans are like just missing him, thinking he's not good. But from what I've seen lately from Vinicius, he's looked good. You know,
he
might lack a bit of end
He just lacks finishing. His his end product is dreadful.
But he can cause problems, especially with Reece James giving, like you said, Laurenz, needless fouls sometimes. He can cause a problem. He really could.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree on the sentiment that if West Ham will probably sit back, try to hit us on the break, and then maybe get a goal on the set piece if they can't on the break. Because of the set pieces, I just feel like if we're going to have Aspie, if we're going to probably have Christensen, I feel like, I know Reece isn't like super tall, but because of how strong he is, he still helps us defending set pieces. And that was kind of my main reason why, even though of an offensive sense of the game, Callum makes sense. You know, I know we need to win, and even a draw isn't quite good enough. We also have to make sure we don't lose, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, I get that.
Help that avoids conceding, I think, could be a positive as well. Do you see that as a valid reason for maybe Reece over Callum Monster, or you think it just has to be Callum, also to give Reece a rest, maybe?
So, was that to me?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry.
Basically, I said, for me, Reece starts also for the set pieces, like we touched on. If we don't have Zuma, if we do play Aspie, who obviously isn't particularly tall, at least having Reece at right wing back gives us one more guy that's decent defending set pieces, even though he's not the tallest, but he's at least strong, so he can be in those duels, and if not win that ball in the air, at least nudge the guy off enough to not get to it, if that makes sense.
I don't know if Reece necessarily makes that much of a difference aerially, especially against a team of like West Ham, where they just got trees over there. I think obviously what we have with the three centre backs, and obviously the left back as well, with, let's say, one of the attackers who might be back there as well, might, you know, compensate for Reece James or Callum Hudson-Odoi, innit? So I don't think they will make, in terms of aerially defending pieces, they might not make too much of a difference.
Exactly. I mean, I see where you're coming from with that, but
I just think, you know, the approach, like, I want us to go there with the intention we're going to score and we're going to win today. Like, so I think Cho's a bit, I don't know, he's a more sort of going for it sort of approach, you know, more of a gun-ho approach.
More of a threat, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I don't want to be cautious against West Ham, you know. I want us to be attacking, because I feel we can do a job against them. As good as they are, I think they have a lot of weaknesses, and no Declan Rice. I think if we go there and we win our game, it's not easy work, but I think it's comfortable work for sure.
It's true. And to be honest, like, I already praised them at the start of the stream, saying the fact that they're even in a race for top four is ridiculous, and fair play to David Moyes and the whole squad for that. But what kind of impressed me the most is that Declan Rice picked up an injury like a few weeks ago, missed the last, 3 games, and I'm pretty sure they won all of them. I know they lost against Newcastle then, but they won the 2 before that, all 3-2.
They won the 2, yeah, they did.
And I was very impressed with that. I thought that would now be the end of West Ham's top 4 challenge, the fact that Rice is out, but they proved me wrong, so fair play to them. Hopefully it is a problem for them tomorrow and we get the dub with that. But I suppose that's enough talk about the team. Let's quickly fill in Monster about the Jorginho stuff so he can share his thoughts before we get on to the last topic that I want to discuss. So basically, Jorginho, and I'll read it out to you as well, as I did to the people and to Connor earlier. Obviously, Connor had seen it before, but basically Jorginho gave an interview to ESPN, it seems, and he said, and I quote, or I'm reading out the quote, "Look, I'll be really sincere here on Lampard. I believe, given he was a legend at the club, he skipped some steps necessary for learning before moving to a big club. Lampard came to a club where he's a legend without having experience at other clubs. I think he came too soon, skipped a few steps, and wasn't ready for a job at this level, to be honest." Now, I think you, Monster, as most people will agree, will as well, agree that he's correct with what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I'm just a bit worried that it was a very stupid thing of him to say because the Yerdas will just get on his back. He was just winning the fans back. That interview with the Daily Mail, the performances against City and against Porto. And now he says that, I'm not sure if he's just in a position to make comments like that, if that makes sense.
I mean, listen, what he said wasn't a lie. It was completely true. Every single word of it. But obviously, you know how fans are and people are in general. They're not going to really take it in the right context or just in the right way in general. The timing as well, maybe not the best. Not too long ago, Lampard was sacked. So the timing's not the best either. I don't know, who's his PR team, man? They should have told him, you can't say that. They should have done better with PR, with PR for a minute. That was a bad statement to make, personally.
Yeah, exactly. It just wasn't smart. Again, I agree with him completely. And to be honest, in general, I think it's good for players to be honest. I don't like the consistent PR answers and always just saying what's the best thing to say right now. But if I'm him, I would have saved myself that comment just to make sure nobody gets on my back. And what we need right now with the crucial games coming up, we need just positivity. We don't need negativity. We're in a positive situation after obviously the fans, saving football and, we're pulling out of the Super League and everyone's together and everything's brilliant. And we might have fans back for a couple of games towards the end of the season, maybe even in the second leg against Madrid, although that's not confirmed yet. It would just be great if everyone's together. And I don't want to hear any half whistles for Jorginho when he's subbed off or whatever. We really don't need that, do we?
That's bound to happen though now. That's bound to happen
Yeah.
now. That's what's going to be. You've seen how Chelsea fans have been treating him over the last couple of years anyway. Now imagine after him saying that, after Frank was sacked, I think you know what's going to happen now. It's a given now.
100%. He needs to stop that, he needs a blind of a performance in Madrid if he plays.
Yeah. But still, the fans were still booing. They were still screaming, fuck Sarri the other day at a protest.
They were. It's a shambles, honestly.
Were they actually?
They were. I was there. They were.
No way. When the stadium reopens and we can go to games again, when Jorginho's name's mentioned on the announcement, I'm going to give the biggest cheer of my life until my lungs, they're gone. Because I feel for him. You don't have to rate him fairs, but he's never done anything bad. He loves the club. He's always been a top professional. Even when he was frozen out, he didn't kick up a fuss,
Yeah.
What's the vendetta about? I think the agenda stinks, really. You don't have to rate him, but at least respect the guy,
Yeah.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And I hope the fans see some sense. And I don't... Do any of you guys know how many people will be allowed at these games?
I think it's 4,000, right?
Not yet. Something like 4K. I think the last time it was 4,000 as well, weren't it?
Yeah.
It was 2,000, I think,
like
last time. I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, Alex has made a decent comment here, and me and Con touched on it already earlier, but just to Monster as well, maybe. Obviously, Lampard did say pretty much the same thing about Villas-Boas. Not obviously the fact that he was a club legend, but basically that he wasn't ready for the job. No. You can't compare it personally because, first of all, Lampard said it 2 years later, not in the very same season, 3 months after. And also, Lampard is Lampard. Lampard, by the time he said it, won the Champions League, won 3 Premier Leagues, won God knows how many FA Cups and League Cups, and was already argued as our best ever player. So that puts in a different situation to Jorginho, who has constantly had issues with the fans. It's just not the same situation. But again, I would like
if
to
we're
not
being
have
honest, Lampard could not do any wrong anyway. The fans are always going to back him over practically anyone. Maybe not a John Terry or not over a Didier Drogba, but over anyone at the club. So it's just, whether what he said about Villas-Boas or blah, blah, the fans are always going to back him regardless. So, yeah. Exactly
that. I mean, people hated Villas-Boas more than they hated Sarri. Do you know what I mean? And that takes something. So that's that. The last thing I want to touch on before we give our score predictions ahead of tomorrow's game and then round it out there. If neither of you watched it, did either of you see that kind of official Chelsea podcast that basically the interview that the 2 American guys did with Timo Werner, I think yesterday or 2 days ago? Did either of you see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
Con?
No, I didn't catch that.
Fair. So, obviously, share your thoughts in the second monster. I thought, first of all, was a very good interview, other than the dude saying Timo Werner for Player of the Year. I'm like, are you mad? Anyway, I thought it was a very good interview in which he gave us some insight. And people know this. I've been one of the people that have been most critical of Timo Werner, of most of the people on the Chelsea YouTube, Chelsea Twitter scene, shall we say. I without being abusive, right, which is a big difference between me and a lot of people, I just say he's awful and he's dreadful. And sometimes I say outrageous things that he's barely even a professional footballer, but I don't abuse him, right? I just say he's bad. But I thought it was a very interesting interview in which he said at some point he's just realized, and kind of the last few weeks have kind of told him, maybe it's just not to be the scoring this season. So he's then ramped up a bit of the work rate, being more happy with himself, being more happy with getting assists, winning penalties. And I thought it was a very, very interesting interview, an interview that made me like him more. I'm not sure how you felt about the interview, Monster.
I know it's been a tough ride for Werner, isn't it? It's been tough for him. A lot of people have been giving him stick. And partly deservedly, like part of it is deserved because he's not necessarily playing the best, isn't it? The one issue I have with Werner is when I'm watching him play, his head's always down and he's not looking up. Now, listen, if you've been in an academy or whatever, one of the basics you train on is working with the ball and you not looking at the ball, you looking up. So I remember when I was at QPR and when I was at Crystal Palace, we used to do days and days of training whereby we're not allowed to look at the ball. Do you get what I mean? You're just looking up, and if you look at the ball, you have to give it away to the opposing team, innit? So Werner, it's like he doesn't know how to play without looking at the ball. That's why if you notice, his head's always down. And that's really affecting him. That's probably why he's missing chances. That's probably why he's mispassing the ball, miscontrolling the ball a lot. I feel like it has been tough for him. This is obviously... The times we're in right now, obviously, is unprecedented, isn't it? Something we've never seen before. Listen, at the end of the day, I think the Chelsea board are going to give him till next season. So next season, we'll see whether he is that guy, innit? We'll see. For now, I guess you just got to take the season as a write-off. Simple as that.
100%. Like, I mean, I disagree. I don't disagree with Flyer's comments here. Is your dribbling and passing ever going to improve significantly when you're already 24? A bit, certainly, but not compared to between being 18 and 24, right? And
can I make a point, Laurenz?
Of
I
course.
think Monster will relate to this. When I used to play football heavily, right, especially level aside, when my confidence was down, the first thing that would affect me would be my first touch. It would totally go out the window.
That's true.
And when I look at Werner, I don't think he's the best dribbler. Like, he's not a direct winger. He's more of an inverted one, if anything. So his dribbling's never going to be like a Christian Pulisic or something like that. But it's still all right. And when I've been watching him this season compared to last, because obviously Bundesliga came back on first before anything else, so I was heavily watching Bundesliga, and I just fell in love with Leipzig because I didn't want Bayern to win it. But I saw he was an okay dribbler, you know, like he could run at a good speed, the ball fairly close to him. And I've been watching a lot this season, and you can just see if you've played football before, there's like a lot of confidence issues there within him. I think he's playing within himself a little bit. With the first touch goes to shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear there.
Don't worry.
Under-hitting his passes and stuff like that. It's just, for me, it just screams out a player lacking confidence. I don't think he's a bad player.
No, you're right. You're right in that, because obviously, when you're confident, the thing is, if you're low in confidence, when someone plays you the ball, you're thinking about 1,000 things. Oh, man, I'm going to pass it to this or that and blah, blah. Due to you just thinking about it, you might have just lost the ball or miscontrolled it, innit? That's true. But he also has to realize this is the football at the highest level. He's got to get back on point soon, because, you know, Chelsea's an impatient club, innit? So, listen, at the end of the day, he will be given next season, innit? He will have a pre-season to work with a manager, maybe to work on his game. And then he will come back next season fresher, new start. So hopefully he can come back better in it.
No, I totally agree with that, Monster. Totally agree.
It's true, like what you both said about the first touch, 100%. And his first touch was better at Leipzig. I mean, he was never the guy to have a first touch like Hazard or like Mount, who basically never miscontrolled the ball. He was never that guy, and he probably will never be that guy, but it was better than it is now. In terms of dribbling, I'm not sure. I just feel like the Bundesliga is just so different in terms of that pretty much everyone plays a high line. So if you're fast, and you're somewhat decent at dribbling, you're gonna go past most people. But you need space to do that. When you do that against a low block, you don't have enough space to use just your pace. You need to be agile with the ball at your feet as well, and that's what Werner isn't. He then kind of messes it up. Sometimes forgets the ball behind him, or messes up one of the touches, or gets out muscled, or kind of, I don't know, underestimates the opponent's pace or underestimates the opponent's strength. And it's just some of those issues. But again, like Monster said, he will get next season. Hopefully he can sort it out for next season, and he can prove a lot of people wrong. He can prove people that rate him highly right. That's kind of what we need. But I still enjoyed the interview, because I agree with Monster. He looks down too much, and Van der Vaart, I'm sure both of you have heard those comments, basically saying he always looks down, never has his head up. He plays like a horse, basically, which was a harsh comment, but not too far from reality, if we're being totally honest, right? But it still was, for me, a good interview to see, because I didn't like how obviously people always rated it, that he seemed to just get on with it. But to me, I was slightly worried until I saw the interview. Someone that constantly, he didn't even seem bothered about missing anymore. And I know that's good to some extent, so you don't let it get to you. But if you don't get bothered about it, it doesn't seem like you're trying hard enough to change it. And that interview changed that kind of slight worry that I had about him, because he just explained partly why he's maybe struggling, and then that he's accepted it, which is kind of what I liked about him. I'm not sure if you see where I'm coming from with that, Monster. Obviously, you've seen it.
No, I hear that, man. Hopefully, hopefully we see some kind of improvement next season, because a lot of people, I see people tweeting about his numbers. He has, more than half goal contributions. Like, he's got 20-something goal contributions in 40-something games. But at the same time, you do have to consider as well, like, he is our striker, so we need more. Do you get what I mean? If he had just scored half of the chances he's missed this season, then we would have been in a better place. Do you get what I mean? So,
Monster, can I ask you a question, bro?
Yeah, go on.
When has a Timo Werner miss cost Chelsea points?
I would have to think about that.
It hasn't. I'm pretty sure it hasn't. But I will say this: it has cost us confidence, which then has cost us points in other games.
You'd be a good politician, Laurenz. You know that.
No, but you see what I mean? Like, it makes a difference that when we consistently always win by one goal, and it's kind of nervy, and we have to exude energy until the very end, rather than just playing it out and no one, like, we're fine, we're 3-0 up, 4-1 up, something like that. Like, it's a difference. Like, and that's where we've kind of lacked it. And then under Tuchel, even though he's got more and more assists and won us penalties, the problem is he's barely even got into positions to score goals anymore. Like, he had the Everton game, he had the Liverpool game, and then obviously did score the one against Newcastle, but that was just somehow scraping it over, right? So really only had 2 games where he was, like, getting close to scoring, which kind of isn't good either, if that makes sense.
And it's not just his misses, it's his overall game in general, like the build-up play, sometimes the touches, the passing's poor. It's over his overall game, and that doesn't necessarily, it's not easy on the eye. Do you get what I mean? It doesn't necessarily look good, if you get what I'm saying. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I was saying it on my channel. Like, sometimes you look at Werner and you wonder to yourself, how the hell did this guy make it as a pro? Like, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but sometimes you just say, if you were to just see him for the first time, you've never watched him play, there's times where you look at him and you wonder, like, how did he make it as a professional footballer? Do you get what I mean? That's how bad sometimes he looks.
In Timo's defence here, I just want to make a point that I think all of our attackers this season, I think we need a new season, This season has been very, I don't know, iffy for all of them. Like, I'm seeing Callum Hudson-Odoi, a guy who's incredibly flary, not really taking people on. I don't know what that's about. I've seen Christian Pulisic get, like, genuinely so annoyed with himself, punching the ground when he falls, because he's been falling over a lot as well recently. He's just getting so annoyed at himself.
I think it's so funny when he throws at himself.
I've seen Hakeem kicking posts and playing within himself. Like, I've watched Hakeem a lot because obviously I wanted him at Chelsea. I was, like, really loud about that even before there was rumours I wanted him at Chelsea. And I've seen him play within himself. So I think, if anything, I know Timo Werner, you can't just constantly make excuses for the guy, because it's not fair, because the same guys will to have a pop at a Tammy Abraham or a Giroud. So you have to call a spade and say this season it hasn't been entirely great. But I think what this attack really needs is just a fresh new season, a fresh start under Tuchel, full pre-season, and then hopefully we'll see all of them improve, because all of them this season have looked iffy at times,
Yeah. And maybe they need as well as maybe what they need as well is a midfielder that can be the link between them, and because sometimes it just looks like there's a huge gap between our attack and midfield, innit? Do you get what I mean? Maybe there's someone that needs to be brought in that middle. I feel like we focus on the defense, we focus on the attack, we've brought players in. For like the one place where we haven't, since Fabregas has gone, that the one place we haven't fixed is the midfield, innit?
I think you're spot on with that. But the issue is there, who'd you get?
That's down to the scouting system, man. They're paid for a reason, right?
Yeah, no, good point.
They are paid for a reason. I see that point. I think, I don't know how I want to explain my kind of argument to that. Because we had that problem under Frank after early December. We didn't have that problem in October, November. We was battering teams left, right, and centre. So I think you can't just put it on the midfield. And right now, the reason we have that problem is because of the formation we play, because we have an extra defender rather than an extra midfielder. Obviously, if you have just two midfielders, you're going to have a bit of lack of a link between midfield and attack than if you have three midfielders. That's why a lot of teams and the majority of teams play with three midfielders. Whether it's a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 doesn't really matter, right? Or you have a 4-4-2 and one of the strikers is more of a 10 than he is a striker, if that makes sense. But I just want to quickly get to this question by Alex here, and Monster, you can reply to it yourself if you want. But to Alex, it's not about missing chances and missing, like, have you scored more than half of your chances? That's not what it's about. If you guys remember, and if you guys watching remember, that chance by Timo Werner against Liverpool when he took it on the volley outside the box and he put it a little bit over. Him not scoring that chance, no one will have a problem with that. Someone like Giroud in the last game, that volley at the near post that he tried to direct on target, but the angle was just too steep to do much about it. That's a chance, but a chance that no one will have a go at him for not scoring. It's different when your chances have been 1-on-1 with goalkeepers, literally on the goal line, on the 6-yard box, just sitters. It's different. Like, obviously, XG tells you a little bit of that, but you don't need just how many of your chances have you missed/taken. It's more about how many of your big chances have you missed/taken, because top strikers don't miss top chances. But otherwise, like Monster, you're happy to interject because the question was directed towards you.
He's right. Yeah, fair enough. No strikers have scored half of their chances or whatever. But you watch Werner, my issue is, I don't know. I feel like he lacks composure in it. If he was more calmer and composed, maybe he can slot the balls in the back of the net. Like there's certain strikers, like even you see it with Kai Havertz, like when you see him the way he just plays, he has this composure. Whereas with Timo, he's just, sometimes it feels like he's rushing it or something. I don't know what it is. Like only he knows what's in his head. So yeah, not everyone scores half their chances or whatever, but he definitely could have scored some of them chances or do a little better. Like,
can I make a point here?
Criticism is warranted.
Go on.
I think a great comparison here would be Mohamed Salah, a person who misses a lot of big chances, but just for the sheer volume of chances he gets, people tend to forget how many big chances he's missed because he's a high volume player. And that's the same what goes for Timo. He's always been a high volume player.
Kind of what Timo was last year. Literally that.
Exactly. He's a high volume player. We knew we weren't getting the most clinical person, but we got someone who would get into the space a lot. And if you find him, he'll be there to at least take the shot on, And that's what we haven't done enough. We haven't given him enough chances. We can't expect him to be Harry Kane, to bury most chances he gets. So we need to create for him. Chelsea knew what they was getting when they signed him, and we kind of failed him in that aspect a little bit. Yes, he should be finishing these chances, but he's never been the most clinical. We already knew that. So, in a way, as much as it's Timo's fault, it is Chelsea's fault as well for not giving him more chances to shoot,
To be totally honest with you, I think most of that goes down to the scouting team. I don't think Timo Werner ever really suited what we were doing under Frank or what we're doing now. I just don't think that's the type of team we are. He would have been perfect for a team like Liverpool. but he was never gonna for a team like us. I didn't say that a year ago. Don't worry. Like, I'm not claiming I knew this all along. But in speaking with hindsight, probably shouldn't have been a player that we signed for that reason. We're just not that team. And to make things even better, even though we're not going to go for that much longer, we're joined by a good friend, Mr. Carefree Louis G. Bro, first of all, how are you? Secondly, thank you for coming. And third of all, do you have anything to add to our whole Timo Werner debate? It started by me saying, did you see the kind of interview podcast thingy that the American dudes on the official Chelsea channel did with Werner? Did you see that by any chance?
Nah, I haven't, but was there any key points around it?
Yeah, it was just me saying that I thought it was a good interview because I finally understood that he accepted some of his struggles, and I thought he came across very well. And, you know, I just thought it was a positive interview. I kind of wanted to give him some praise, to be honest, but it kind of ended up being an interesting debate, to be honest. And just because Monster a minute ago said our problem is more the midfield than the attackers or the defenders, Utman, I'm not going to try to pronounce your surname, I do apologize, saying Mason can connect, Kai can connect. The problem is Werner has lost his confidence. Werner lost his confidence for sure. We can all agree on that. I think, and Monster, I'll let you disagree probably with it yourself in a second, but the problem is Kai plays too high up the pitch to be the connection that we're lacking. And Mason, in his current position, other than obviously against Brighton, isn't the position to be that connector. Obviously, he can drop, but then because he still needs to fill the role high up the pitch, he always needs to turn around. It's not, you know, with your face to goal, you can open and connect, right? And that's the kind of player we're missing. Mason can do that when he plays in an 8, in a 4-3-3, then he can do it, and he will get better and better at it, because when he was doing it, he was 20/21 years old for Frank, right? So he would only get better at that. But we still, if we want to seriously challenge Man Cities, who have Gundogan's, who have De Bruyne's, who have Rodri, who can do play passes like that from deep, who have Foden when he plays in midfield, who have all these players that can do those things. If we want to challenge Man City, if we want to challenge for the Champions League consistently, then we need a player like that, I reckon. Right? Is that kind of what you'd say as well in response to that, Monster? Monster, can you hear us? Maybe not.
That might be a connection thing.
Might be that. Do you agree with
Timo Werner, we literally had this debate on the stream as well, just before I came on here. And I was using the Mohamed Salah example as well, that Con used to say that, yeah, Werner's finishing, like, we already know it's poor, but, like, this is the striker that you got. This is why I say this. I give him the same energy that I give with Alvaro Morata when he was here. I'll give him the first season to try and work for it, but the second season he has to work for us, otherwise it's not going to work. This season, yes, 16 big missed chances. Like, it stinks. It absolutely stinks. At the very least, it didn't cost us anything because he hasn't had any of these big misses in games that we would have won or drawn without it. It's always come in games that we've already won. But at the very least, his all-round game's still good enough. If his all-round game deteriorates, like we saw in the Sevilla first leg, then it's really just howler season for him, because then he really is offering nothing. But his movement off the ball, his link-up play, especially if you play him in the right teams, like when we played him against Manchester City in the FA Cup semi-final, we knew they were going to play a high line. They played a high line all game, and even though he did struggle with the offside trap, there was a couple opportunities that he found himself, and one of them was the assist back in Ziyech's goal. So there is something that Timo Werner offers us, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. It's just the finishing. But I also think for a lot of us, it's because we came in with the mindset that he was going to come in and be clinical. And he never was clinical. Even at Leipzig, yeah, he got 34 goals a season. They made so many chances for him. And you need him to be in a team that will continuously churn out chances, because eventually he puts one or two in them into the back of the net. Liverpool would be a great example. That's why it was us and Liverpool that were interested in him. He would have suited Liverpool perfectly because they make more chances and he would have had more opportunities on a plate for him. We don't really make as many chances. We've got Jorginho, who prefers to, I'd say, more pre-assist than actually assist. We've got Kovacic, who we question his final ball. We've got Kante, and we question his final ball. We've got Mason Mount, and is there, but I still don't think he's decisive, and I think that's because he's a bit more of a selfless player. So that's also a problem in itself too.
Just quickly for Mason. Mason kind of plays on the opposite side of Werner. So unless it's a cross, it's actually difficult for Mason to get the ball into Werner often, in this current Tuchel side at least. Like where we presume that Werner plays the left inside forward and Mount plays the right inside forward. It's difficult for Mount to actually find Werner much because they play on the opposite side. So unless it's a cross, and then Werner has to get ahead of tall defenders, and that's what he struggles with in the first place, it's difficult for them to actually combine much. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, especially when both of them are playing the forward positions, because both of them are just going to interchange in between each other. Neither of them are going to occupy the same spaces, otherwise leaves a massive gap exposed on the other side of the field. So I get that. Ziyech as well, like we use Ziyech like he's meant to be making runs beyond the defenders, and I don't understand that. And yeah,
No, but
Ziyech is scoring games.
Lewis, even Ziyech, man. Like I remember, I've seen this a couple of times this season where, like, I can't remember what game it was. I saw Mason Mount bombing towards the box, and instead of Ziyech to run like with him, parallel to him to provide an option, he was literally standing on just the halfway line, just standing there, just walking. And there was just no urgency from him to get in the box with the other attackers.
Yeah, that's cool. Was that from the Leeds match?
I think it was after the Leeds game. So it might have been either Man City or the game before Man City.
West Brom?
I think it was West Brom, right?
I can't remember which game it was exactly, but it's just, and he's done that a lot of times where you just see him walking in the box while others are doing their work, and it's just like there's just no urgency from him. It's poor.
Yeah, that's definitely a mentality thing, and it's not an excuse either. But I can see where he's come from Ajax, where he's like meant to be the key player there for years on end, and he can afford to do that. And he's come to Chelsea where he can't afford to do that. That's not an excuse because he needs to get that out of his game and he needs to get out immediately. But I still don't really think we utilize him as efficiently as it could be for him. And again, that's an issue with the fact that we don't play the team around Hakim Ziyech. Hakim Ziyech has to find a way to be useful for the squad. And I think that's where the problem is, and that's where everyone's clashing.
Yeah, I mean, but
maybe
you see other players like, and I don't want to hype him hype him up too much, but you see a player like Bruno Fernandes. The Portuguese league is so different to the Premier League and such a different level. And so even when you play for Sporting, it's so different to playing for Manchester United. He was able to adapt and be one of the best players in the league, maybe the best player in the league this season. Obviously, he's faded out a little bit more recently, fair enough, but still. If you're real good, you can make that adaptation happen, right? And obviously not everyone can be as immediate impact like Bruno, but if Bruno can do it from the Portuguese league, the fact that we constantly give these people the excuse of our first season, I'm like, if you're real good, people can't do it.
But to be fair, Laurenz, to back Hakim up a little bit here, when he first came to Chelsea and that first pre-season game, he didn't play for 4 months. He got injured. When he came back, he actually looked decent, then got injured again.
But that's what I don't get. How do you be so brilliant in those first 5 games that he was back to now being decent, but for a while being absolutely shocking? I don't understand why the one time come back from injury you're like that, when it was a more severe injury actually, and then coming back from a lighter injury and then just not being used, nothing works. Like, it's a weird one. I do need to wrap this up fairly quickly, so let's get quickly to the super chat here by Tuchelista saying, appreciate the donation first of all, saying, the red flag for me was when Nagelsmann said Timo Werner wasn't an option for the Leipzig against Atletico game in the Champions League last season because he is not good against low blocks. And that's what I meant earlier when I said in hindsight, and again, I wish
I heard that earlier.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't say this a year ago, but if I did enough research on it, and I would admit that, like, that's why I said exactly this kind of comment and this kind of situation is why I'm like, well, should we have signed Timo Werner? Because how many games?
This is why I'm also quietly saying, like, everyone getting hyped about Erling Haaland. It's like you lot just want to do the same thing twice.
No, but Haaland has the physical abilities to deal with a low block too. Werner obviously never has that.
Physical, but I don't think he's been in that position where he's had to deal with it enough for it to be mental as well. Like, and that's why he'd need to adapt. And I don't mind the adapting. And I always say Haaland is going to the top. We'll never, ever dispute that. But 153 million and he ain't going to hit the ground running. I'm good. Not after last season. I want unfinished products.
I think that's a bit harsh, Liz, because even if he does need time to adapt, he will still score goals. He'll still score.
I don't think...
do well. He'll do well. But for me, it's 153 million. They're going to demand the best out of it.
I don't think it will actually be.
Everyone is going to be on our necks if he doesn't.
I think it will be around that fee. I think they're just going to. I think personally they're going to prize themselves out of a move and then
in euros, yes, but not 153 million pounds.
See, that's the problem though. He won't go for that money because next season, so not this end of this season, next season, his buyout clause is 80 million. So if they want to hold out for this 150, fairs, everybody will just ignore that, and the next season they'll get him for 80.
And
So
that is fine by
we
me. I'd
wouldn't get
rather
it.
we did that.
No,
I
but
don't
we
spend
wouldn't win the fight
153
next
million
season.
on him
There's
because
no chance we get him next season. There's
No, but that's
zero
what I'm
chance
saying.
we get him.
If Dortmund are smart, they'll sell him for around 120. You know, bring that
But
fee down
it's
to
not even just
100.
it's not even just the fee. The wage demands as well is just too much. Like
I don't know.
They're demanding what 500 to 600k a week. That's too much.
they're
Conspiracy
asking too
theory,
much for a
conspiracy
player that
theory.
I don't think has the
What
full
if the
quality
wage
to be net.
demands?
Take Bundesliga tax into account with it as well, because they have so much space in that division. That's why it's so easy. Well, I won't say easy for strikers, but so much easier compared to the Premier League for strikers to be prolific. Paco Alcacer was prolific there. Batshuayi averaged a goal a game in 6 months in the Bundesliga there. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's definitely easier than it is in the Premier League, and you definitely have more space to deal with in that division. That's why Haaland looks so good. You go to the Premier League, it's the first time where he's not going to be on that upward trajectory, and he's going to dip. And if he dips at Chelsea under a 153 million transfer fee or something similar to that, the whole country is on his neck. And yeah, his mentality looks good now, but it hasn't been seriously tested yet. That would be the serious test. And for 153 million, I'm not doing a test. I can't do a test anymore because we're just going to get mocked for it if it doesn't work.
I hear that, but I still don't think the majority of Haaland's goals is just because of space. I think the majority of the Haaland's goals is because of movement
And service, but we also need to chances themselves.
Right? But still,
I think he's a brilliant striker, man. He kind of reminds me a bit of Edison Cavani. I don't know why, but yeah.
I hear that as well. But let me just say one thing. I do think if you think about like a conspiracy, I think those wage demands, whether they're $1 million or 600,000, I think those are Mino Raiola Super League tax. Mino Raiola 100% new Super League was happening. I think those wage demands drop without Super League.
Fair enough.
You think? You think those wage demands were based on Super League?
Yeah, I see no chance of Mino Raiola, probably one of the most connected players in all of football, didn't know that was happening.
That's a fair point.
With Super League, you could argue a wage demand like that somewhat makes sense, or at least a little bit more. So that's just my only kind of counter argument to the whole thing. I do apologize, guys. We're getting into a very good debate here, but I do need to wrap it up because my girlfriend is literally come from the train in about 5 minutes' time. So I do need to open the door up and everything. So I really do appreciate all of you guys coming here. Con, obviously, from the start, I appreciate you as always. I hope you had a good time. Sorry that I didn't quite let you speak as much towards the end, but obviously we spoke a lot at the beginning. Everyone, if you don't know Con already, follow him on Twitter. His link is down in the description. The same goes for Monster as well, at Monster CFC. The link is down in the description. And of course, check him out. Brilliant YouTube channel that you all should watch. And of course, Lewis, who I didn't know was going to come on, but I appreciate it a lot. You guys know where to find him. I'll put his link in the description later as well at Carefree Lewis G. Guys, do you have anything else to add? Monster, I think you were just going to say something.
No, I was just saying big up, man. Big up everyone. You know what I mean?
Appreciate it a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still watching, be sure to subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. On the road to 10,000 subscribers, less than 600 away at this point. So the more of you that subscribe, the quicker we can get there, would honestly mean the world to me. So get subscribed if you haven't already. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Just go down below, turn that like button from a boring old grey to a lovely blue, because blue is the color. And the last thing I'm going to get from you guys, which I almost forgot about now, score prediction for tomorrow. Let me start with you, Con. Con. Let me start with you then, Monster. Score prediction for tomorrow.
1-0 Chelsea.
Fair enough, Lewis.
Depend. God knows. 2-1 Chelsea. I hope it's West Ham. Absolute judge club. I swear down. I could see some BS happening, but 2-1 Chelsea because I always back the Blues.
Exactly. Con, if you're here, I think you said something. Your mic isn't working. He just put in the private chat that you guys can't see. His prediction is 2-0 Chelsea. Brilliant. My prediction, I'm actually going to have to go along with Lewis because I see that as the most likely 2-1. But at the end, I don't care whether it's 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 7-0. Just get the dub. It's a must-win game tomorrow. We've got a huge few weeks coming up. And the start of it is the game against West Ham tomorrow. Real Madrid on Wednesday, Tuesday. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys on Sunday. I'll see you guys on Monday. Hey, we've got a busy few weeks coming up again. Thank all of you three for coming on. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, and I'll see you.
Peace.
Next time.